Okay.
Hey,
Hello?
what's up?
All right.
Yo.
Sorry for the delay. Accident just around the corner from my house. I got stuck there for like 25 minutes, and then my camera didn't want to turn on.
It happens.
So, yeah, we're here to talk about soundbars, audio, home theater, and all of that. So everyone's seen Ninjishin and KG here before. Sammie's been here without video before.
Yeah, now I have video.
All right, and if chat can let us know if audio is good all around. I got to try and adjust a few things here.
I think my idea is good.
Yeah,
It's good.
it sounded good.
Ooh. Wrong windpipe.
Hey man, it happens.
All right, FOMO is here too.
Yep.
Sweet.
All right.
Oh wow, this is such a huge crowd. Hey guys, sorry I'm late.
Hey,
All right.
Hey,
it's all good.
Did I miss anything interesting? I know you guys
Nah,
are
we
talking
just
about...
started.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we just started.
Yep. All right. Yeah. So pretty much everyone here has different opinions as far as home theater and sound bars and such.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Wait,
For-
what
for
is
real.
everyone's opinion? Did I miss that? Did I miss the fun part?
No.
No, we
Not yet.
just
Wow.
started. I was
Oh.
stuck in traffic. I was going to be here a half hour early, and that didn't plan out. Yeah. So I'm kind of, I guess, middle ground. To me, I think sound bars, unless you're like really, really, picky about how things look in your room, I think sound bars should be delegated to like bedroom scenarios. I don't really see a purpose of very expensive high-end sound bars unless you are just purely going for style. But if you're interested in like having a home theater experience, then I think you need an actual dedicated home theater. But I also don't think you need to spend tens of thousands of dollars either. So Sammie and Ninjishin probably disagree with that.
Wait, which would you disagree with? The tens of thousands of dollars, or that sandbars are not great?
I don't really disagree with too much of that. So I agree that soundbars have a place in like a bedroom or a very small dedicated room. When I think of home theater, I don't think of soundbar. That's not really kind of what it's for. It's good to replace as an alternative for television speakers, but for actual like home theater, I do feel that you need discrete audio. You need speakers. If you're really serious about it, you are going to go the route of a processor with amplifiers. Do you need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars? No, I think that most people could probably start off with getting a good AVR, starting off with two good, whether it be bookshelves or 4 standing speakers and a good sub, and you build out a system from there. So you don't have to spend thousands. If you have the ability to, sure, why not? But it's not something that's required either.
Cool. So I guess the way I feel about this is it just depends on your situation. If you're gonna be in a dedicated room that's a home theater, of course the best setup is going to be an AVR and a total like full setup with bookshelf speakers and then rear satellites and maybe even like up-firing speakers. That's probably your ideal setup for like actual home theater setup. But a lot of people have hybrid home theaters, I think, and they're in more of a kind of open area situation. And for that, I think in the open area, then I would try to lean towards an AVR system as well. But for people that are more in like a bedroom or something that's just like a medium-sized room, I think you can get away with the soundbar, especially the way soundbars are these days. The more upper end soundbars are tending to sound better and better as the years go on, and I think a lot of people can get away with that. And for some people, too much bass could be a bad thing. They could get evicted if they have too much bass.
Wait,
So
is this
it's like,
personal experience here, KG?
no, this is a personal experience. I'm just trying to like feel everybody out. From what I've heard, feedback from everybody throughout the years of just working at Best Buy and then even just doing YouTube, I hear multiple opinions on this, and I think like using the wisdom of the crowd on this situation, you see everybody has a different perspective of what home theater is to them. Because to a lot of people, home theater could just be a full Sonos setup and it sounds amazing to them. And then to other people who are more audiophiles, who are used to the full AVR setups, they'll think that the Sonos sounds terrible, you know? So it is definitely like where you've been and what your perspective is and what you're used to. Like, and if you're more of a reference audio type person, or if you just want some more like enhanced audio, I guess.
All right, so Brad's question here kind of is the question that I was going to answer. Like the HT-A9 has been very popular, but I think it's more of because it's different. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone agrees you have to get that with the sub, so it's $2,300. My problem with that is I'm sure the spatial audio aspect is great, but I don't think it's going to have impact. I don't think it's going to be shaking your couch under your hand. And to me, you can get that experience for half the cost of the HT-A9. It's just then you have to do a little bit more work, but I think it's worth doing. So I'm going to share my personal alternative to the HT-A9. Get one of these. They're usually $400 when they're on sale. Let me take this away. And then
How many channels is that, Classy?
7.2, so you can pair
good.
it perfectly with this new cinema kit that came out.
Mhm.
And then it has upward firing Atmos, so you get, well, this is 5.1.4, but you still get 5.1.2 out of a receiver like this for $400. Or you could pay a little bit more on the receiver side and then go with something like this to start out and then add more speakers later. Or even if you went with the receiver and something like this and then added a sub, you're still coming in way less than an HT-A9. I just think this one looks interesting because it basically is the same setup as the HT-A9, just you're adding this one little center speaker to it.
And that's a better alternative. I mean, because once you buy a soundbar, you're stuck with that. Like if you wanted a new sub, if you wanted more bass, outside of a few different brands like Nakamichi, you can't just add a sub. For instance, if you want to have like better seat consistency or even out the bass in the room, like you can't do that with a soundbar. And you have the flexibility to do whatever you want once you start getting actual separate pieces. If you feel that you are lacking in the lower end, you can get a larger sub, more powerful sub. You can get larger speakers that you can run in full range. Like you have more options where you just don't have that with the soundbar. And plus with the soundbar, the drivers in a soundbar are very small. So just based off of how sound works and is reproduced, it's vibrating to create pressure that moves sound waves through the air. It creates, sound is air being moved and vibrated. With a driver that's this small, how much of a frequency response do you actually think you can get? And what they do is they start to use multiple drivers to play the same frequency. If it's using multiple drivers to play the same frequency, you're losing out on a different frequency. So if you actually have like separate, like a center, a left or right surrounds, you're not really missing out on anything.
So let me ask you, Sammie and Magician, because I noticed this when I had my setup of 5.2 with the 0.2 being the Atmos. I think that's good enough because when I tried 0.4, I never hear anything in the back. It's like all the Atmos sound from all the popular mixes, what or whatever. Just list your top, with a few exceptions, maybe Fallout. Almost all the Atmos effects are the top two right here, but there's rarely anything behind me. So I'm thinking that most people, what Classy suggested, they're thinking, oh, I'm just shortchanged if I go 5.2. I should find a way to get 5.4. I'm thinking maybe the 0.2 Atmos is enough. They're not going to miss too much. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, is that something you guys have observed?
That's what I would agree with specifically because that's what I have. Because I mean, I started out with one of those $400 receivers and a 5.1.2, and it's to go just those 2 extra rear heights, you have to go up a lot in receiver to get those.
Well, let me jump in here. So I think the biggest issue today is soundbars or accessories for TVs.
Mhm.
That's what they are. They're attachments. People attach soundbars to TV sales. 60% of the experience for a movie or a concert or even a good TV show, like if you say you're watching Westworld or something, is the audio. So my take is that 60% of your budget should be the audio portion, and you should be spending more on audio than you do on the TV. As for Atmos, a lot of my clients, especially ones that play video games or watch certain TV shows, and the thing says Dolby Vision, it says Atmos. There's not a lot of movies that actually have discrete Atmos, especially from streaming services. And what you end up with on a lot of video games is, let's say you use an Xbox and you're saying, oh, I'm putting out Dolby Atmos, and you have latency, you have audio latency. And they find out that there's nothing in the Atmos channels. And if you put it on discrete 5.1 or discrete 7.1, you have no delay, and you have a discrete audio field on the actual bottom level, like the listening level, none of the height channels. So I kind of follow the THX route, where I've got 2 big speakers in the front, 2 big speakers in the back, and dual subs, and I don't feel that I'm missing out on anything when it comes to Atmos. Whereas Sammie, I know, has a more complete setup. So that's why I wanted both of us on the stream, because we can go back and forth on that too.
So I disagree there, because I run 7.2.6, and for instance, my back left and back right are, if I play Ready Player One, they're fully active.
Mhm.
No matter pretty much what demo I play, it depends on how it's mixed, of course. But Ready Player One's a good one. If you play any of the Dolby demos, that's a good one. If you play any of, say, what is it, 1921, I think it is. Right? Like any of those will have active channels. But at the same time, you have to have speakers that are, if you don't have a lot of power, they have to be super efficient. So you have to have a super efficient speaker. You also want to probably consider, was it an in-ceiling or was it a box speaker? Because to me, in-ceiling speakers, if they don't have a built-in box, they're pretty anemic. They're almost like they're not even there. So you have to have a super efficient speaker. If you don't, you have to have a lot of power. So in my setup, I'm running 2 audio control Savoy G4s, so I'm getting 230 watts per channel on every channel.
Wow.
So like, that's why I say, like, I disagree with not having more. The more you have, the better, but you also have to consider how is it set up, because audio is easy to get wrong and it's hard to get right. Like it's really hard to get right. So when you're setting it up, you could say, okay, I want to set it up for the main listening position, or do you want to do the central listening area? So the central listening area is where you're going to be focusing on, say, for instance, you have a theater and it's has risers and it's 3 rows and it's 7 seats each row. You can set it up so that the central listening area is the center seat and the center row, or depending on how large the risers are, it might be slightly behind it, it might be slightly in front of it, and it might be slightly raised or lowered. All of that's going to impact how the audio sounds. So I think going more speakers is fine if you have the power to actually support it. If you don't have the power, like if you're running like in AVR where you're getting like 50 watts per channel and you don't have super efficient speakers, you kind of are wasting your money. You're shortchanging yourself there. But you really have to plan it out, because anyone could build a home theater, right? But to actually set it up and design it, that's something totally different.
All right. I'm gonna answer this super chat. Thank you, Andy Kills You, for the super chat. For pretty cheap, you can get the Q950A soundbar system. So much better for a soundbar than you think. It's half the cost of the HT-A9 easy setup as well. So I mean, I have looked at that, and I've looked. My issue with any soundbars over, let's say, $300, or maybe $500 at the most, I would say, then you probably should be looking at one of those entry receivers with a decent front channel setup, and then just build off of that if it's going into your main viewing environment. If it's going into a bedroom or a secondary room or something like that, or again, if you are specifically looking after like a certain look in your room, or you care about the wires and things like that. But personally, I mean, I've had surround systems in my bedroom, and I don't care about wires. I don't care about how it looks. I'm just going for the audio experience to go with it. But I know KG, he's in a different situation where he needs soundbars. And so what's your opinion?
Well, honestly, I think that, like, for the most part, most people, until they hear a full, like, decked out system, they're probably not going to know the difference. And when they hear something like a 950A, it's probably going to blow their minds, honestly. And if they're used to just like a theater experience, it's going to give them that. So I really think that for the most part, the newer soundbars are good enough for most people. And I honestly think that.
They are. They really are. Because
they're
most
good.
placeable rooms they're multi-purpose. Like, not everyone wants to run, I mean, there's multiple ways to run cable, but not everyone wants to do it, right? Like, not everyone wants to drill a hole in their wall, use a fish rod, go through the ceiling, bring it back down the other way. Like, no one wants, if you don't want to do it, some people don't want to pay to have it done. And then once you do it, you're kind of committed, right? Like, once you cut a hole in your wall, you better put something there to fill it up. So it's not for everybody. And for most cases, soundbars aren't bad. They have their use case. They're good. They're better than what they used to be. They give you a pretty immersive experience. But I was to say, like, if you want actual home theater, that's not going to give you it.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And then there's you don't know what you don't know. So if you're going from a TV to a soundbar, it still sounds better than TV. But if I go to Sammie's house, that's it. Life sucks, right?
Yeah, right.
You can't go. So don't visit Sammie or have him play a movie, because I think that's I don't want to call it a problem, but when you are happy with what you have and then you visit someone that has slightly better, or 4 subwoofers, right? Just something that you've never experienced. You cannot unhear that. And so I think a lot of this is also, if you're happy with what you have, don't go looking for what you're missing out, because you cannot unhear it. But because I keep on thinking that you're so right. I was so happy with what I had, and then you keep on getting more and more, but you can never go back. And I think, like you, Sammie, what is your upgrade path from here? Because clearly you have a state-of-the-art system. Is there an upgrade path, or are you kind of like within 1% of where you need to be?
The only thing that I could really, so there is one thing that I'm definitely doing, and that is I'm getting rid of my 2 subs here, and I'm switching them out for a dual PSA 3612. So that's going to have dual 18-inch drivers. That's essentially like 4,300 peak RMS. So essentially, I'm going to have 4 18-inch woofers in here.
Wait,
more than what I need.
Two of those, so it's 4 total drivers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right now, I can get to, and I have my subs set at negative 27 dB and 29 dB, and I can hit 85 decibels at 12 hertz, and then it starts to roll off. But this is probably like a character flaw, but I really want to hit like single digits. So that's why I'm changing my subs. Outside of that, the only other upgrade path I could do would be getting a turnoff, which is, I wanted to do it this year. Chances I won't. I will probably try to do it next year. Most likely in altitude 16, because right now I have a Leendorf. So I'll probably get rid of that and get a turnoff.
And it'll be called the Altitude 20, right? Because they added the free 4 channels.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that means I could put more speakers in my house, which is awesome. So
how large is your room?
It's 12 and a half wide, 22 long, I believe. Actually, that's probably longer. And 8.5 foot ceilings, and I have more audio and power in here than I actually need. But it's fun, and I don't really drive it super crazy unless someone asks me to. I actually put limiters on a lot of stuff, so like I don't turn my volume up anywhere near max. I can be roughly at 60% of what it can do, and I'll be at reference level volumes. So I don't have much of a path left. It's pretty much a turn off the new subs, and unless I decide to switch out from Paradigm to Revel, there's nothing else I can really do.
All right, Fuma, I just want to touch on yesterday in your stream. There was someone that had the question at the beginning about $10,000 budget, bright room, talking Q900A, Q900A, or Z9J, but he wanted Dolby Vision, and I said that about D-Nice. So it wasn't specifically that he has an issue with Sony Dolby Vision. He has an issue with Dolby Vision as a whole.
Really? So
Yeah,
wait,
so-
can you elaborate on that? Because I think yesterday we kind of thought it was a Sony thing. So what's up with Dolby Vision? This is important because people are so happy with it.
Yeah, he has issues with its accuracy compared to HDR. There's little snippets of what he said on the forums, but I think you'll have to try and get him on for a stream and ask him to go into, because he said it would take paragraphs to explain, and he doesn't write paragraphs. So
Right. No, but ultimately, I think didn't Ninjishin, you said that calibration would address the issues he had with Dolby Vision out of the box, which affects all TVs that carry it as a default setting, right?
Yeah, I went through the post history and found where even post calibration, he's preferring HDR10.
Yeah, the only thing I can really think of is that Dolby Vision has its like pipeline to a Dolby Vision end engine. That's why like when you look at gaming or movies or anything like that, you can calibrate it in a sense that you're setting up the TVs, whether it's LG or Sony, to do their math for like a conversion to Dolby Vision, but it's almost impossible to actually calibrate Dolby Vision in its like absolute form. And Sammie is a pro calibrator. He knows for sure the best way to do it, but I think he wants that like absolute confirmation that everything's perfect, and it's almost impossible to measure that.
Okay. Now, but for most people, I'm assuming they're not going to notice a huge difference between the Dolby Vision and the HDR10 as far as this looks unpleasant. I assume they both probably look pretty pleasant, but it's more of an accuracy to the source, right? Is really the complaint.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
But, next time you get him on, you try and find out what's going on, what he's found.
I will. Yeah. That's interesting. Well, you know, it makes sense because when I have all of my TVs that are Dolby Vision, some are calibrated, some are not, right? But then in Dolby Vision, I'm like, wow, they look a lot more similar. When they get on Dolby Vision, it's like they're drawn into this look, which I think makes sense. I mean, now I know why Dolby Vision wants it the way it is. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that the non-calibrated and calibrated look more similar under Dolby Vision than when they do in HDR10, where they're doing their whatever out-of-the-box tone mapping. So that's kind of cool. That makes sense. I can see that.
Right. And I know you don't have long FOMO, so if you want to talk about the summit.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're all invited, obviously. So the tickets that I'm giving everyone, just go there, use mine, because really we want everyone to have a good time. So the AV Summit is something that Joe has been doing Hi-Fi Summit for a few quarters now. And this time he decided to bring the video side of it because we want to do home theater, and our goal is to kind of bring the CES experience that they have audio and video, but it's more like a sideshow. We want to give it more of a focus and makes it easier for the brands to introduce and talk directly with consumers, and consumers can ask directly, hey, such and such, like Trinov's going to be there, right? John Herron's going to be there. So if you guys have any questions for John, like Sammie, we'll give you a ticket. You go in there and ask John, hey, I'm planning to do this. What do you think? Or what is a good AD-AT adapter for my thing? Because they want to get you excited about the products they have and specifically whether it fits your use case. So the way we're approaching these seminars is less about the specs and more about the use case. So I want to direct our brands, say, hey, I understand you have, let's say, 3,000 lumens and BT 2020, but the reality is, what is it that separates it from the other TVs? Because it's either the same price or more expensive. Why should they choose yours? It's a dark room beast or whatever. So we're hoping to give the brands a chance to better angle their products to fit the price and needs of the people, and we're hoping to have different product levels. So we have OSD and SVS all the way up to Kaleidoscape and
Nice.
Trinov, and then you have Hisense trying to put out a little bit more expensive products. And our goal is to really get everyone into a lounge and a chat, because when we are in our own echo chamber, like you guys hear it all the time, you got the stereo guys and the home theater, and then you have the subjectivists and objectivists, then you have OLED versus projectors, but we're all the same team, right? We all just want to have a good experience, and eventually you all end up getting the same products, right? You start with a sound bar, and then you work your way up to receiver, and then you're sick of the receiver, you go to the processor, and then you're back to the sound bar again. So we just want to have fun. And so the avsummit.com, but obviously if you guys will go, hey, I really want to go, can someone throw some tickets? So I've given everyone a chance to share their links and tickets with everyone. So it's something that we really want our community to get involved with as well. And the brands are there to get closely connected, because like one of the things I thought was very interesting was Samsung specifically reached out to a few, I guess, YouTubers, influencers, and the question was so funny. If you guys caught our live stream, like, hey, what can we do better? What are consumers unsatisfied with? They're like, can you just include Dolby Vision? Is it so hard to do? And it's not like you guys said, right? It's not Dolby Vision adds anything, but you understand that some consumers specifically do not buy your, and they don't even know what it is. They just don't see Dolby Vision. Whatever.
Right.
Just check box, add another $20 to the price, they'll pay for it. It's not like they're saving money. And so it's these little things that crack me up. Or Hisense reached out to a few influencers like, how can we be more respected in the community, like among reviewers? I'm like, isn't that your job to find out? I don't know, but your products are great, but what are you missing? So it's interesting that they're actually trying to get in touch with you, right? Us and the people who are listening and watching every day. So I think it really is a new platform that we're trying to connect everyone. Because even CES is like, well, unless you're in the business or you have somewhere to get in or you're in the press, we don't let the general public in, right? I'm like, oh, come on, that's kind of ridiculous. But so we're going to try something new. But yeah, the avsummit.com. So it'll be Monday through Friday. And on Sunday, we're going to have a pre-show where you could hang out. Like Caleb Dennison's going to be there, right? He's going to show up and try to talk to you guys, because I know a lot of people, I love you, Caleb. But he has all these haters. You're a Sony shill. And he's like talking, goes, how can I be a Sony shill? Everyone loves Sony. I mean, it's like, can you be a shill for something that's so good? And so it's like, it's so hard to be a reviewer, but it's like, you guys see it all the time, right? So it's kind of fun. You guys will get to talk to, I think Brian Tong will be there as well. So we're just trying to have some fun with our YouTube community.
That's cool, because I've been to Cedia a few times, and even with like Cedia where like I can get in, there's certain times where it's like I try to go talk to someone and I can't, because they're just constantly going from meeting to meeting to meeting. And there might be something that's like, I need to tell you this because this is broken or this doesn't work, or when are you going to change this, or whatever the case may be. And luckily, like there's certain people that I know that I can email. So like I can email Brett from Kaleidoscape and tell him, like, hey, what's going on, this, that, and the other. But a lot of people you don't have access to. So being able to be in a forum where you can actually talk to them that's huge. That's huge.
That's exactly it. Like last time they had Andrew Jones on the last Hi-Fi Summit. He was there Q&A. Every one of the brands that will be there, they'll have their own booth where they will have office hours, so to speak, from on Thursday 10 to 1. All of their reps will be there, and Brett will be there from Kaleidoscape. So they'll have their big reps there, because we'll tell them, look, you're going to get suggestions and requests, and you could consider it, but at least you get to talk to the people that actually buy your products and can afford your products, and they have real questions that they're not getting from the retailers, or retailers are closed or just not responding. So yeah, we're hoping to make this a very open-ended way of getting in touch with kind of like the brands you're interested in. Yep.
Cool.
So what were we talking about? That HT-A9?
The HT-A9. Okay, I have to. It's interesting because a lot of us have bought it and stuff, and I love it for its simplicity. But I have to tell people, my room, I think, is the largest that you should go with the HT-A9. It's about 17 by 30, and that's at its limit. So Brandon has it as well, but his room is like 22 by 40.
It's huge.
Yeah, he's like, I cannot hear it that well.
He
And
should
I'm
put it in his office because he's got a double vault ceiling.
There you go, right?
Like
So
a double high.
he has a subwoofer, and I'm like, but in my room, I was telling him it's actually unbearably loud. If you put on DTSX or DTS Neural X at a 50, I'm like, okay, this is too much for me. But then I have a slightly smaller room, so definitely, guys, if you're looking at it, your room size is one, and also if you're used to discrete sound, this is more diffuse, so you get this surround bubble, and so it is a bubble, but it's not discrete. What is discrete is the bed level, but it's more like 4-point bed level. It's not 9. You're not getting that discrete, but 4-point is pretty good compared to the rest of the soundbars out there, with the exception of a few that has pretty good satellites, but these are all the same speaker powered size, so they allow you to adjust the surround to your taste. If you want that backfiring to be a little bit harder, you can do that. And of course, unfortunately, the sub, you only get to connect one sub. Like Sony, you had a chance to daisy chain multiple subs, but I think their theory as well, our main speakers can't handle it. What's the point, right? So now it's all sub. So I can see why, but still, maybe for even bass, you could have 2 subs, but it is expensive. But you guys have to remember, it's MSRP. And just like the Q950A launched at over 2,000, what is it now, right? So I'm pretty sure if you guys are looking forward to it, just wait until next Black Friday. It's probably going to be half the price, and they're going to have a new one because this is so popular already. But yeah, it's a great entry level once it goes down to probably 1,200. I see it at 1,200 or 1,300 easily.
And you think they're going to sell a lot at this price?
They're sold out. Yeah.
Oh, really?
At its current price, 2,300, you can't get it anywhere right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's just the idea that it's new and different, and the simplicity of it. Yeah,
and
like
no
last
soundbar.
night,
A lot of people hate soundbars. That's why. Yeah.
I hate soundbars. So the idea that you can put them wide
That's it.
is fantastic.
I hate the appearance of soundbars as well. Like
that's it.
I just wish I
think
could
that's
just get rid of that.
Well, anyone that owns an OLED, so if you have a Master Series or an LG C1 and it's on a stand, you can't put the soundbar in front of it. So this is a great solution, especially for their Master Series that sits flush with the media console.
Yeah,
you know, it's a great solution.
I think that's why they did it. Like when they figured out like this is our design for our TVs, we can't have a soundbar. It doesn't really work. So let's come up with something else.
Yeah, and everyone has their own opinions on how loud it should be, and it's like for me, if it's not clipping, then it should be louder. It should just go louder until it's going, and then you back it down to one.
Well, Phomos said something about that though. He said as he turns it up, it gets a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and I think that is the biggest differentiator between like a low quality system and a high quality system is as you turn up a high quality system, it isn't going to distort and hurt your experience. It'll sound louder and fuller and you'll have more bass and more presence, but it's not going to sound bad. And a lot of these smaller systems, when you start getting really loud or in a big room, you just can't overcome the physics of it.
The tiny little 3-inch, 4-inch drivers, you're going to hear it crack. I mean, you will hear it crackle above because they're trying to do everything. They're trying to do 80 hertz. Oh, I mean, you can't do that. I don't care, right? It's going to crackle. And if you watch Tenet, you're not going to hear anything, right? It's just
You can't hear
dialogue, nothing, right?
You can't hear dialogue.
I know, you can't hear anything. You need Sammie's system to separate and everything, right? Yeah, the soundbar, put it on Tenet, that's it. Time to upgrade. That's the best way to convince someone to upgrade. Just blast Tenet on your soundbar and see what you do next.
I was watching Spectre last night, and at the beginning when he shoots the briefcase and it explodes, and the couch is shaking, and then Mrs. Classy's like, "Why is it so loud?" And then our daughter's sitting there, and I'm like, "Because you need to feel it." And then they start telling me, "You don't feel it, you hear it." And I'm like, "No, you feel it." And if you don't feel it, then I'm not experiencing it.
Yeah.
See, that's another thing with soundbars, especially when they come with subs, because if someone's like setting up a system and they know what they're doing, right, you're going to check the compression level of a subwoofer. So like, for instance, how mine are at -27, I can turn it to -14 before it starts to compress. So I have a ton of headroom. That doesn't exist with those small, like little 8-inch, maybe dual 8s or maybe a 10 on a soundbar. Like the amount of range that you have. So say for instance you're at negative 15, right? And then you bump it up 3 dB, so you go to negative 12.
Right.
Essentially, the difference in how it measures should be literally the same distance, 3 dB plus, until it starts to compress. So that's how you know how much headroom you have. When you're looking at those little tiny subs with the sound bars, that doesn't really exist. They're pretty much all like overlapping. So as you turn it up, it starts to clip, it starts to distort. Like you just don't have enough power. You don't have enough surface area to actually create the frequencies. So soundbars, like for bedrooms, offices, they're great. But for how big you said the installer's room is, that's like, there's no point. There's really no point in having it.
So confession time. I bought my parents a 75-inch Sony 900H. There's no game in there. And they have a $400 Vizio soundbar with sub. For that room, for what they do, it sounds fine. They're doing surround sound, they're watching TV, and it's great. But when they come over to my place and they watch a movie and we're watching it on an OLED, I find the whole like soundbar versus home theater system the same as like owning a 900H versus owning a A90J. Like you don't know what you're missing until you really experience it. And there's that same price differential. I spent $1,000 on that 75-inch. I got a deal on it. And it's you don't know until you know, but I think a lot of people get misstep where they think they need a room like Sammie's, like a dedicated home theater system or home theater unit versus something that you can integrate into a house or a living room, or even just a nice receiver with a pair of nice tower speakers that runs off the HDMI ARC control from a regular TV for older couples. I used to do that system all the time. Turn it on, speaker turns on, TV remote controls the volume. It'll blow away any soundbar you can get, and it's stereo. So I think
you bring up a good point. What are your thoughts on a really good stereo system? Forget the soundbar, because phantom channel, right? No need for anything in the middle. That's what I used to run for a while before I got my first AVR. I loved it. I thought it was fine. Just run optical straight into the DAC, and you got yourself. There you go. Yep. 2.1, right?
Oh yeah. Well, 4.2.
4.2. No center channel.
None. And I had an old buddy over just the other night to give him a demo, and I said, "No, sit right here in the middle." And he asked me if the TV was making the sound, like if there was a master system. I'm like, no. When you have the audio system cowled in, those speakers will phase right in the middle, and those tweeters are like, if you look at a person on the screen, those tweeters are right at the level of someone's head. So it sounds more natural, you get more volume, you can hear dialogue better when you set up like a stereo system versus a soundbar.
Yep.
And you can put the speakers pretty wide, so you get a lot of nice separation. When you do get music or something whipping across the screen, it's going to sound better.
Yeah. So what size would you say is acceptable where you start thinking, I need an AVR and not a soundbar? Like what size room I'm saying? And does enclosure matter? Like if the door is shut or if there's not a door, if there's high ceilings, like where does that start to impact you?
Well, I think the real question is what's more important, a soundbar with its faux Atmos experience or just a good pair of floor standing speakers and a decent receiver to get started?
I think you can get a good pair of bookshelves, something with like a 6.5-inch driver and a dedicated tweeter. Kef makes a lot of great products in that range too. The problem I have with soundbars isn't so much the sound, it's the fact that they're only about yay wide, so you can't get stereo separation on these soundbars. And now take like a Sonos Arc, you have a system where, okay, we're going to try and shoot sound out the sides, we're going to try and shoot sound out over you, but the drivers are like the size of a little persimmon, and they just can't give you that punch. And for dialogue, especially male dialogue, as you turn the volume up and you get something that's more chesty and deep, that sound system can't reproduce that sound, so it's always going to sound weird. And that's
Yeah.
just the long and short of it. It's just physics.
Do you think a sound treated room would help a soundbar out more?
Sound treated room helps anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, would you recommend somebody that has a soundbar set up to sound treat their room, or you think that's a waste of money?
That's,
Well,
I don't know. That's kind of a
the
waste of
sound
money to
treatment's
me.
not the waste. I think the sound
Yeah.
bar would be the first thing to go before the
Yeah,
sound
I'm just
treatment.
going off of some questions that I heard before.
Oh yeah, no worries.
I mean, an open room is not going to kill it because
Mhm.
in actuality, everyone's room sucks, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's room is bad. So you have to do sound treatment regardless. The point of when you want to consider if you want to upgrade from a soundbar to something like more substantial, whether it be an AVR or a processor, you have to look at how it's going to be integrated, right? So if you're totally happy with your soundbar and you don't necessarily need to run a bunch of stuff through it, or say you can use eARC and run it back to the soundbar, and necessarily you don't need to upgrade. Now, once you start having, 6, 7, 8, 9 sources, then you're probably going to want to consider upgrading because you're not going to get that in the soundbar. But if you're talking about just pure audio quality, pretty much if you care about audio quality in any sense, really, you're going to probably want to upgrade in general because, again, just how speakers work and being able to reproduce frequencies. Multiple drivers this big cannot, like, you'll see ratings of something saying it goes down to 60 hertz.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so that's with all drivers playing and most likely a sub. Otherwise,
10%
those drivers,
distortion.
right, and distortion, right? And those woofers are not woofers, but drivers by themselves, they're not going to reproduce that sound. Where if you want to actually reproduce a wider range of audio, you have to upgrade. So, like, for instance, most of the bass that we hear is mid bass. That's most bass that we always hear, right? That's technically like 50 hertz to like 80 hertz. That's what we usually hear. Like in most audio, most music, that's the bass.
Right.
You don't start getting into like lower end bass, like when you're talking about like 30 hertz, 20 hertz in sub, until you start getting into like movies. But if you want to experience something as accurately as possible, you will want to upgrade as well because you can't do it with a sound bar. And plus, with the cost of them, you can build a better system like piece by piece, and you can grow it however you want. Like nothing says that you have to go out and buy all 7 speakers right now or all 5 speakers and 2 overheads. You don't have to do that. You could start with an AVR, 2 good, towers or bookshelves in a sub, and then just upgrade as you want.
Yeah, that's a good point. And one thing I really noticed about soundbars as like the years have gone on, you've started to see less frequency charts being released on them. So they like hide that information from you. So you don't see where the soundbar breaks down at, to your point. And you see that with like other speakers. You'll see the reference charts and stuff like that. So
yeah, even with those charts though, they're to definitely be taken with a grain of salt. Like you definitely, because for instance, you'll definitely want to measure them. So like when I switch my subs, I already know in my room, my subs currently, a single sub is rated to go down to 17 hertz. In my room will go down to 12. So I know that the sub, if it's an anechoic measurement, that for the ones that I'm looking at, they're rated to go down to, I want to say 11. In room, I should be able to get 6 or 7 pretty easily. So I would definitely measure it, but I would definitely take any measurements with a grain of salt for audio.
Sammie, you bring up a really good point about bass below 20 hertz. So are you familiar with the forum bass EQ, where they go in and they add more bass because they feel that somewhere in the mastering, someone artificially clipped it, whatever the reason, but are you doing that? Because obviously you can, right? You have these 4 18-inch drivers. Are you planning to do a little bit of bass EQ to kind of give it some oomph?
No, I probably won't. I want to try to keep it as natural as possible. Well, when I run, since I have a Lingdorf, I'll be running Room Perfect. Room Perfect does not EQ below 20 hertz. So anything I do for under 20 hertz, I have to do manually. Which I'm going to do is just that I don't want to run it hot. I don't want to try to add any extra bass, just because of how much it's going to pressurize the room. I have insurance, but I don't know if it's going to cover whatever is going to happen if I start adding like 5 hertz bass at like 95 or 100 dB. Like I can't. Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Are you going to target like the Harman curve when you use Room Perfect, or does it do kind of that? It's almost like perceptual audio, right? Humans hear bass less, so generally you do kind of a slope with more bass at the bottom end, and it kind of rolls off as you go. So as you turn it up, you actually perceive it correctly.
I will probably do a Moyer curve, so like the BK curve, and I will most likely do a high shelf with a pretty wide Q filter, and I'll probably do that most likely. So it will definitely give me a little bit more bass, but nothing crazy. It's not. I think it's like 3 dB for the Moyer curve, if I recall correctly.
So.
Also, KG's got to get going here soon.
Oh yeah,
and-
I gotta get going
and
too.
FOMO as well.
Yeah,
So-
we'll bail at the same time. So when KG leaves, I'll bail.
All right.
I have an appointment.
But yeah, I
I
know
really enjoyed
KG's got
this.
stream tomorrow,
Yeah,
and
this is
then
good.
your 10K on Saturday, and FOMO, you doing gaming one on Saturday. Anything else going on?
Nah, yeah, you pretty
Oh,
much hit it.
I'll have my belated X95J. Finally, right? It took
Yeah.
forever, but I'll get it out.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I get the call. I gotta run. Hey, thanks everyone. It was
Yep.
great to see you, Sammie. Hope to see you all soon. Bye,
Yeah, it was
guys.
nice
Later,
meeting you.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See ya.
All right.
Then there were 3.
All right. Well, yes, KG's having his 10K appreciation stream on Saturday after the Pass the Remote stream. So whoever wants to come by, just ask KG for a link. So, in the mid range, so let's say under $2,000, what would you recommend? So, AVR with speakers, that kind of thing.
Probably, I don't know. Kef makes some pretty good entry level stuff. As much as I don't like Klipsch is, I don't like them personally. One, just because I think they're kind of harsh. But I mean, they make good stuff where you can get like an entry level system for a very low amount. It's good to start with, and then you kind of graduate later on if you want to. Some people love Klipsch. I'm not a huge fan. I think they're super efficient. I think they're great entry level. Build quality, they're decent. They last forever. So something like that would probably be good. Some of the entry level Kefs are good. I'm not sure how much the entry level Martin Logan, like the Motions, go for, like a Motion 20 or a Motion 40. And then for a sub, you really can't go wrong with SVS. Like, it's going to perform. You don't have to go to like some super like professional or esoteric brand. But I would say probably like a SVS, SB 1000 or 2000 if they not necessarily a pro. Probably like I would probably go with like Kefs, like a Q series, and then like 2700 or something like that from Denon.
Yeah. So I'm going to go a bit off the chain here. I'm going to say get one of the either newer Denon receivers or the Onkyo receivers that support the features you need. So eARC or maybe a 2.1 setup, even though that's been kind of a crap show with how they've been working. But what I'm going to recommend for speakers is looking at your local listings for like OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace. The speakers that I have currently are about $5,000 a pair. And I picked them off Facebook Marketplace for less than $1,000. So you can find some really cool deals, and really, you can even kind of shop more expensive and look for the looks that you like on speakers. Subwoofers, generally you're probably better off just getting a brand new sub, because a lot of those, you never know what kind of problems they have with them. But I generally fall in line with like the SB1000s, the PB1000s, or even the Pro series now. The Pros are a much bigger upgrade, and you get a lot more sub for your money. But even that will still keep you in like the $2,000 budget with a $600 receiver, $600 sub, and then put the rest of the money towards some bookshelves or secondhand speakers.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna share. All right, so I more come from car audio, and was more into like non-mainstream brands and smaller companies. And then so like when I did my system, I was looking at different things, and so I came across BIC. So that's like the sub that I have. And for budget at the time when I was looking, there's like for $300 you can usually find this, and that it's competing with subs 2-3 times its cost. I don't know if either of you have ever heard of Acoustic.
No, I haven't.
So
Are they more in the? They're more just within the car audio realm, though, right?
no, this is home theater. It's just it's a smaller company. I'm just saying,
Okay.
me coming from car audio, that's what I would look for: smaller companies that are less about paying into marketing and things like that, and more into the quality of the product.
So, what do you think of the what's it called, like the Speedwoofer? I want to say that's like, what is it, like RSI or something like that? Speedwoofer. I want to say they make 8s and 10s, and they're pretty affordable. And from what I read, at least on some reviews, they perform pretty well.
I haven't heard of that. I've also, like, being in Ohio, I'm by was it Dayton Audio, and like they sell individual parts. You can build the stuff, or they'll sell the enclosures, sell the amps and all that separate. You can build your own sub. So I've more looked into a lot of that stuff, just not been able to afford the high end things. And like my floor standing, and then the speakers you can see, those are now they're pretty old because it was 2015, I think, when I got them. The Infinity series speakers, that they're fine. They're probably like on the level of like Polks or something, like the lower level Polks that you get for a couple $100. But that's how I pieced mine together and ended up. I think it was originally like $1,500 for my whole 5.1.2 with the receiver, and then my receiver went out, so then I just went ahead and got the Denon X4700H, and then some point I'll add a amp and then upgrade speakers.
Yeah, I mean that's a good system. It's like, and it costs less than what one of these soundbars would cost.
Yeah,
and it's gonna way outperform it like every single day, like all day, every day.
I just found another pair of my bookshelf speakers I use for surrounds on Marketplace for $350 for the pair, and I'm like, I saw some Vandersteen towers on here for like $250. Like, for me, when it comes to the audio, the TVs, the receivers, the processors, the game systems, that's where you want to get the newest and latest. But speakers last forever.
They do.
If you get some really good speakers, they're going to last a long time.
Yeah, don't ever go to, well, I don't want to say don't ever go to it, but if you don't want to spend a lot of money, don't go to AudioGone. Like, I spent way too much time on AudioGone. Just looking at like stuff, was like, oh, what can I replace my receiver with upstairs? Like, I don't even really use it upstairs, but like I want to replace it every time I go on AudioGone, and it's like I need to stop going there.
All right. Thank you, Transylvania, for the super chat. You joined a little late. That's okay. We all kind of started late. He's an audiophile first, but was wondering what stereo upmix 5.1 to 7.1 sounds like for music. Is it good? He's now rocking 2-channel setup, Dyne Audio Spec 49s, Denon A110 stereo amp. Maybe you guys know something different, but I've always heard that music, unless it was recorded in surround, should be listened in stereo. That way it's like if it's a stage in front of you.
Auro 3D. If you have Auro 3D and you listen to music on it, it's super impressive. So one, if your system's already set up correctly, it's going to place the center of it and between the speakers, so the person's going to sound like they're coming from there. But when you put on Auro 3D, it makes it, not only does it keep the focus on the person singing if there's vocals, but the actual instruments just seem to span across the entire front soundstage. And it sounds like you have, instead of it just being center focus, it's like the entire thing. I would say if you have Auro 3D, try that. That's probably the most impressive I've heard music sound. And I don't do 7.1 or 5.1 in that case. I'll just go straight to Auro 3D, and it sounds really good.
I've been fairly impressed with what Apple Music's been doing for the Dolby Atmos tracks. So you get some mixes that are kind of they're just doing it to be, you know, unique by throwing vocals on either side of you. But some of those mixes are basically placed as if you're on stage and surrounded by the instruments. So they've done some really cool things through Apple Music, but again, that's going to be discrete. It's not necessarily like an up mix. I found, I think, what was it, Dolby Pro Logic with the music mode, the ones that allow you to have that center width adjustment where you can kind of adjust how far the vocals come in and out. That works really well if you have a system where the center channel may not be as good as your fronts, and you can kind of adjust it and still get like that surround effect. But again, they're just using kind of delay to like bring the music around to the surrounds, and they're not necessarily making it surround you unless you're using, again, like the Auro 3D.
Yeah, and so for soundbars, I think some of the entry ones are fine for like small rooms. So like Mrs. Classy, with the KS8000 or small back room, like the TV speakers on that are fine, but even the $150, you know, Black Friday soundbar special is still going to sound better than I think any, you know, TV's built-in speakers, and just have more clear audio, especially if it's a soundbar that has a center channel to separate. So I think there's a place for them, especially in small rooms, or just a budget way to get better than TV audio. I just personally can't see myself ever spending a lot of money on a soundbar or the HT-A9 or something along those lines when you can get a AVR. There's ways of hiding speaker wires, like running them under furniture, rugs, whatever. Getting the little things that you put on the wall that hides. I can actually turn this. I've shown these before.
Oh, little cable channels.
Yeah, like that. And I think it's more of like a fear that it's going to look bad, but then once you set it up, and it's also, if you haven't done it before, I can see why like the wiring for so many speakers might seem a little daunting or something. But once you're doing it and you put the time in it and you run your wires right, I think most people would be perfectly happy with how it turns out, and then you just get a much better experience.
I mean, I think my biggest issue where it came to the HT-A9 was that you had to use their tech, like their subwoofer, that kind of hard locked you into that whole economy. Mm-hmm. If they simply had a dedicated subwoofer out, or do what Martin Logan does and include like a wireless sub kit to use with their sub, and you could use anything you want, I would be more interested in recommending a system like that. But even Sonos now allows you to use 2 subwoofers. And having 2 of them on either side of the room, I'm pretty sure is going to beat out that Sony sub. I still got to go to Brandon's place and check it out while he still has it.
I don't really have too much against Sonos, but I kind of don't like them just because they're they're pretty much the new Bose, right? They're the Bose of millennials, I mean, for the most part. And it's I think it's overpriced for what it actually offers. Like, you can get a lot better. It's cool for whole home audio. Like, once you actually like integrate that into like a control system, it's pretty cool for that, you know. But like their sound bars, it's just, I think it's overpriced for what you get. But I guess the alternative being like a Samsung or a Sony that costs $2,500, it looks like a pretty good deal. But I don't know. I just kind of wish they would go away. I think they're bad for the industry, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where, you remember like okay, so when you worked at Best Buy, right? Do you remember people probably coming in saying, "Oh, I have a Bose system," or like, "What's good, Bose?" Like, it's automatically people think that that's good, and that sets the standard or the bar for like what audio should sound like. And it's like, no, dude, that's not what you want.
For me, it's like I always just hear how Bose is just mid-range and nothing else, but that's because like the Bose systems in cars and just everyone always making fun of the Bose systems in the cars.
Yeah, all highs, no lows, must be Bose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bose, one thing that they're great at is marketing. They're great at marketing their audio headphones. Cool, they work really well. Like their Soundbars, I really haven't heard any of their Soundbars, but they're little satellite speakers and like home theater solutions. Yeah, they're not that great.
Yeah, and it's like, again, with car audio, you know, Kicker, Sony, all those companies, they just put all the money into R&D, and then they, you know, create these just very, very cheap, like anything that you would buy at Best Buy pretty much in car audio was not good. You know, nothing like a Sundown or RE Audio before they got bought by a Chinese company, you know, things like that. And so like when I was looking at building my home theater system with limited amount of money, you know, trying to get the best bang for the buck, that's where I look at, you know, the Dayton Audio or the Parts Express, things that they sell instead of going to, you know, big box store or whatever. But so my issue with the HT-A9 mostly is just the size of these speakers. I mean, the upfiring ones, like, it's going to give presence and sound, but there's no impact that's going to come out of that. Not compared to, you know, a floor standing with 2 or 3 6.5-inch drivers plus separated tweeter. The difference, yeah, that's something you feel more than you hear.
Yeah, and so for someone to use that, you have to have a ceiling that's going to work. Like that's not going to work for everyone's use case, because some people have, you know, pitch ceilings, some people have extremely high ceilings. So if you have an extremely high ceiling, you actually have to be able to produce enough power, and it's going to have enough essentially, you know, force surface area to even reach the ceiling so that you're going to even get an effect. So there's a good chance that someone could install that and not get any effect at all.
You need double power because it's got to actually hit the ceiling and then come back.
All right, well, KG gave a super chat saying that was fun. You had to go. And as a challenge, can we build an Atmos setup for $1,200 or less? And I would say that the $4-ish $100 receiver plus that clip pack is a pretty decent, easy solution. And if you really try hard, you can get your own speakers with something like that and end up with a good 5.1.2 out of that receiver.
I mean, let's talk about the key word in this, which is Atmos. So I'm of the believer that it's not truly an Atmos setup unless you actually have direct firing speakers mounted to the ceiling. The whole bouncy house stuff.
That.
Well, you know what I mean. Like above you, like voice of God type of things.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest problem is a lot of people are just waiting to see this little Atmos thing pop up on their system and think, oh, now I got Atmos. No, you don't. You have possibly a good quality Dolby stream of audio coming to your system, but if it's not discrete Atmos and you don't actually have it set up correctly, especially with Atmos having the actual angles and the way the speakers fire down on you and the levels correct, you know, you're effed. It's not going to be proper Atmos. So why waste time pursuing an Atmos system when you could build a really good 5.1 system to start?
Yeah, and see, I would rather have even just a front stage only with Dolby True HD or DTS HD instead of a Dolby Digital Plus Atmos streaming over Netflix or Disney.
Yeah, and I mean with Atmos, like there's like with audio, it's kind of seasoned to taste, right? Like you can kind of, some people might want to run their subs hot or whatnot. So there's certain things that are kind of true, right? Like you essentially don't want to have a sub that's localized. You want to have, you know, things towed in so that the image centers in the middle of the screen, if that's depending on how you have everything set up. So there's things that we kind of go by, but when it comes to Atmos, there's actually a specification for it. There's a specification for residential and there's a specification for commercial. And like when I was setting up my system, I went and got like a little laser pointer measuring, to basically essentially a tape measure, right? So I was sitting there finding angle and then actually measuring it and then determining where I'm placing my speakers based off of their specification from the main listening position. And when people set up Atmos, technically that's what they're supposed to do. Like you can just throw a bunch of speakers up if you want, but if you want it per their specification for how it's going to sound, you actually have to be like a certain distance. It has to be a certain angle and everything.
I opened up one of their specification documents, and it's for the theater, so it's not going to help.
Oh yeah, the commercial one, yeah.
Yeah, which is badass.
Yeah, it is. It's super cool. It is really cool if you actually just go through and read it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you can learn about how to do the central listening area as opposed to main listening position.
Yeah, I used to like build sub enclosures for car audio and calculate and tune them and all of that. And I was thinking about trying that out for home theater, see how that would work. Probably have to go through a whole bunch of them before I got one that was good though.
Yeah, it would be a whole hell of a lot cheaper. Like you can get, like I was looking at parts for building a sub, and you can get like a massive like 21-inch Italian driver for less than like half the cost or like 1/4 of the cost of what it would cost to buy like a big brand in the store. That's going to be like 15 inches. You can get like some massive 21-inch driver. I mean, obviously you're gonna have to build the frame or build the enclosure, do all the bracing, put it in, get the amp separate, put it in, but you can get it like kick-ass professional subwoofer when you're done for hardly anything.
For an magician, respond to this comment.
All right, yeah, so I'm thinking of grabbing some of the $300-$400 sound bars and reviewing those because I don't really see many reviews on those. Again, I think that, again, personally, that's just where I would kind of draw the line. Any more than that, I don't know if I could justify a sound bar. But if anyone wants to see some of those more entry soundbar reviews, I might look into doing that soon. Because then I could, again, I don't have a really high-end system, but I have a decent system. Compare them to that, see which one gets closest.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what people need though, because like, so I'm doing a projector review, and there's certain things that I'm not hooking up to the projector that I'm reviewing because it literally makes no sense. Like I'm not going to hook up a Kaleidoscape to a projector. And at the same time, like if you're reviewing like a $400 soundbar, you're not going to compare it to like a $50,000 plus system. Like that's just not fair. But you have a good basis of what good audio sounds like because you have a system. So you can at least like give meaningful feedback.
Yeah, my viewing environment isn't that big either. So the room's kind of long. I think it's, 16 feet or something. But my seating to the TV is only like 6.5 feet. And then the actual wall space is only 9.5, I think. So it's not too terribly big of a room. So soundbar should be at least have a chance if it's going to have one.
Do you have like seats where you're like far off to the side, or is there
there's 3 seats pretty much right in front? Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think another big thing, and I see this in bedroom setups all the time, is I mentioned it earlier, but blocking the screen by putting the soundbar in front of the TV, like on a cabinet or something. That's like the biggest pet peeve I have is like, oh, I got the sound bar, but I can't see the very bottom edge of the TV or anything like that. And then you have people that, well, I'm going to mount the TV on the wall, so now I need a soundbar mount to kind of hang the TV. Who is it? Is it Sonance? Makes like an in-wall 2-channel system. It comes with their little power port amp that uses eARC. So you basically mount that behind the TV, plug your TV HDMI into it. I think it's like 120 watts per channel. You literally put both speakers in the wall on either side of the TV, and you now have like 6.5-inch drivers for in-wall sound that's going to blow away any possible soundbar you could hang from the sucker. It's got built-in like Sonos control, so you could actually stream music to it. You can do all sorts of stuff with it. Like, there's a lot more stuff that's out there that you can do rather than buy, $1,500 soundbar and then have it hanging off the TV like a, like shoestring it essentially.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options. There's on-wall speakers. There's a ton of different ways to go.
That's one thing I never really have been able to like deal with either with soundbars is the installation area of them. Like, one, you obviously have to have them plugged in, but as they're getting bigger, it's like you either have to have like a massive like credenza type television stand, or you're gonna have to like mount it from the wall, and it just doesn't seem like functional, because if you have it on the credenza, then you're gonna have to have it forward, so that it's gonna have to do its up firing. If you mount it on the wall and it's right underneath the TV, you're kind of blocking some of that. It just seems like it's just not, I don't know. There needs to be a better solution. Sony's solution right now seems to be the best.
I'm going to share this real quick, class, just so you can check this out. Because back working at Magnolia, so this sucker's $1,500. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Well, I can make it a little bit bigger. So $1,500. It's got a back box to go behind the TV when you install this in the wall. This unit here is your little Sonos port with the amp, so Sonos amp. And if you look at the actual speakers you're getting with this system, you've got essentially like almost like a 3-way design: silk dome tweeter, dual woofers. I mean, these it's so funny that they call them Mag 6s. That's only for Magnolia. But you get a setup like this, and now you basically mount the TV and you have invisible speakers. It looks gorgeous. And that's going to sound 10 times better for like music or movies or anything. And by the way, that little Sonos port amp has a subwoofer out, so you can run a subwoofer in the room too. Like, it's just the little things that people will spend $2,000 on a soundbar when they could have bought something like this and just made it so much better. So I think there's stuff like, if you don't know it exists, you don't know it exists. But soundbars are such a easy accessory for people at like Best Buy or these AV shops just to add on, that they'll say, oh, well, you need a soundbar to go with the TV, because obviously the TV doesn't sound good. But there's a lot more options out there.
Yeah, there are.
I'm sure Best Buy misses me for actually selling good stuff with their TVs.
Yeah, I haven't actually looked at Dayton Audio in a while, but I just opened their page and look, they have some interesting stuff that might be worth looking at.
I bought one of their subs and it was great.
So like, here's a 5.1 with a 15-inch powered sub, or you get it with floor standing. What's the pricing? Do they not sell direct? No, $735.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's good.
Then just get the receiver of your choice, and hopefully the new receivers are handling HDMI properly.
And then these might be like their Atmos add-ons.
If they could just start getting receivers that had at least like 4 HDMI 2.1 inputs without any issue, and you just don't have to use this eARC crap anymore, that would be such a big solution. Like, eARC, I swear, only exists because these receivers can't do the HDMI 2.1, so they got to pull the audio back down from the TV.
Yeah, HDMI 2.1 is important. It really is. I mean, that was probably the biggest pain point of when I was building my system, is HDMI 2.1 by far.
All right, so Don B has a Dayton audio set up. Do you have any issues? Does it sound good? So, yeah, the only issue I'm having so far with the Denon receiver, the Yamaha, my Sony remote would work for everything. Like CEC was working great. So I bought the $100 A90J remote. Then I get this Denon receiver, and now the CEC doesn't really want to work. It only works when it wants to, and like only sometimes, or certain devices will work. It's just been a pain.
I've shut all of that CEC crap off. I just do everything. I set up a remote. It's got hard commands and macros in it. It does what I tell it to do. Like
CEC is awful.
I was helping a client. That was that crazy client I sent you pictures of. And basically no matter what he switched to on the receiver through the TV, it would just keep switching back to ARC every time. Anytime he gets an input from the TV, ARC. It was just driving him nuts. So we just turned it all off.
The only time I've seen CEC really work is if you had 2 devices or less. As soon as you have more than 2, it just falls off a cliff. It's like, oh my God.
And ARC technically is almost like one of the devices. So it's like you can do like one extra thing and that's about it. But he had like his Blu-ray player was showing up, his PS5 was showing up, his cable box was showing up, like everything was showing up on the TV. And if you'd click on an input, just nothing would happen. Yeah, that Denon Classy that you just put up on screen.
That's what I was looking at earlier. But I didn't know that it was HDMI 2.1. I want to know if it's actually that many HDMI 2.1, or is it typical Costco saying all the ports are when they aren't, like they've done for some TVs and stuff.
If I had to guess, I'm going to guess that it has a 8K input, and then the rest are just 2.0B. But I'll check out the thread while you guys answer some questions. It says it's got 3 8K inputs.
Okay, yeah, so 6 total, 3 are supposedly 2.1. I mean, that's still really, really good for just over $400.
So we just beat KG's challenge. We could use your Dayton audio setup, and we could use this Denon 760 and be well within budget.
Yep,
that'd be pretty badass. I like Denon.
Yeah, so I had the was it the 960? What was the one last year called that Costco had? I actually bought one before I bought that Yamaha. The only reason I took it back is it didn't have a component input, and I wanted a component input, so that's why I got the Yamaha instead. But then my Yamaha, the HDMI board went out, so now I have the Denon with multiple component ends.
Nice.
All right, Buddy Love, thank you for the super chat. What's good, fellas? I keep eyeing the Klipsch RP8000F floor standing speakers, 90% movies and TV shows. Should he go with something else? He has a Denon 6700H.
That's pretty good because the Denons are a little bit warmer. They're not as warm as like Marantz. And I think that's probably like my biggest problem with Klipsch in general is they're very detailed. They're very bright. They're very efficient. But to me, that's fatiguing after a while, like especially at loud volumes. Pairing it with like a Denon like that or Marantz will be pretty good because it's going to warm it up some, not like a bunch, but it will help a little bit. Outside of those, I would say maybe some. Maybe DefTech. I guess it depends on kind of like what your price range is. I would maybe possibly move up to like maybe some Bowers, maybe DefTech, maybe Martin Logan. It kind of really depends on what you like. You would have to go and listen to them just to get an idea of what they sound like, their colorization. One brand that is really good that a lot of people don't really talk about is Monitor Audio. Monitor Audio is actually pretty good. They're definitely affordable. Like you could probably get like some of their Bronze series, and they're gonna outperform a Klipsch all day.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
What's the price on those? Do you know? Range
on the RPs. I've actually sold a pair. I'm trying to remember because I gave the dude a deal about 1,600 maybe.
Okay. I was looking at like the Hecko Aurora 700s. You can get them open box for 500 each. Like, would that be comparable, better?
Let's see.
Oh, my Gadgets World is in here. No, he said he has them.
The bronze 500s, Sammy, those would be comparable. Actually, a little bit less in price and probably outperform the RPs.
Yeah. What do you guys think of Wharfdale?
I haven't heard them in a long time, so I don't even know what they have currently. I like them.
Yeah, I haven't listened to Wharfdale in a while. I know they're pretty affordable, but I haven't heard them for. It's been at least a good 4 or 5 years since I've heard a pair of Wharfdales. Also, another brand is Canton. Canton is pretty affordable as well.
Yeah, there was another company that I know DSS carried. I'm trying to remember what it was. Let me look them up.
DSS. What did they carry? They carry a lot of stuff. They carry some cool stuff too.
They've got monitor audio, Golden Ear. That was the other one that they carried.
Yeah.
Golden Ear and Triad.
Triad makes some pretty good architectural stuff. They make really good architectural stuff.
And Triangle. I've actually heard a pair of really nice bookshelf triangles that were pretty killer for the price. So there's a lot of companies out there. You don't just have to go to a Best Buy and be like, all right, Klipsch, Bowers, Cav, Martin Logan. Like, look up the mom and pop shops and look for the guys that have like B stock or stuff that maybe a client brought back, and like listen to a lot of stuff, because you might fall in love with something that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, that's very true, because if you go to, especially a lot of specialty dealers, they will allow people to trade in their current speaker to go towards something new, right? So you can go into a custom installer shop or a custom dealer, like a boutique dealer, and you can find like things like diamonds for like half the price, right? You can find Paradigm, you can find Rebel, you can find JBL, you can find Monitor Audio. Golden Ear, I like Golden Ear. Golden Ear actually makes really good subs, surprisingly. Their speaker itself sounds very similar to DefTech, and that's probably because Sandy Grossman made it. But
They got those passive radiators, I think. Or are they powered?
Depends on which ones you're looking at. They become powered once you go to the Triton. I think the Triton 2s, they become powered. Yeah. Ones for sure, and ours for sure are powered.
And they've got the folded motion type tweeters.
Yep, they use
the
that
planar
ribbon.
tweeters. The ribbon tweeters, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass.
I think they use Rainer. Yeah, I think they use ribbons.
And yeah, just looking around, like I just found a shop just by Googling Golden Ear speakers. Blue Moon Audio, that's pretty close to where I live. Have you ever heard of them?
No, I haven't heard of them.
Probably
just the beer. Yeah, man. Like you have to realize it's physics. Like it's going to be more than double when you really think about it, because it's not only twice the distance. Now you have to reflect off something else, and you realize like the frequencies that are going to be reflective versus non-reflective and actually get to you. Like it's crap. I'm sorry, but it's crap. For a tiny room, being able to bounce off the ceiling, maybe, but it's not going to sound anywhere near as good as having a dedicated speaker up there with a minimum of 50 to 100 watts going through it.
Yeah, that's the one thing is people need to realize that, one, if you have a discrete speaker, you need the power to drive it. Even if it's efficient, you still need to have enough power pushing through it to get any real effect out of it. Like I said, like all 6 of my speakers are fully active. Like I hear sound through all of them, but I have 230 watts per channel with plenty of headroom going to them. So if you're running like an AVR, because most people don't even realize sometimes that, say if you have, a good example is Anthem. You get an Anthem AVR, the first 5 channels are going to be, so your left, right, center, surround, left and right are going to get full power. But once you start going into those not lower channels, but the other channels, you're literally getting like 50 or 60 watts per channel. Like they break it down like that. And you're going to get something out of it, but not like a whole lot. And you can't push them either. So
Yeah.
the more power you have, the better.
So I think the next step in my setup, because I've been stuck on 4.2 forever. I'm thinking, so the processor I have is 16 channels. I'm only using 4. I've got a 5-channel amp that's running that system. I'm thinking about locating another one of the exact same amp I have, so I've got the same power all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about, depending on the space, shifting it to a 7.2.2 and possibly doing like 2 overhead speakers. I'll have to look at the positioning because I've got ceiling fans and everything, but I'm almost thinking angled in. I don't know. I'm going to look at the Dolby paper in terms of where to place them. But that's the other thing is like when you get a processor that may not be powering those other speakers as much as you want, that's where you get the outboard amp and you start dedicating outboard amps to controlling all the other speakers too. And that will free up a little bit more power and current on the main channels for the receiver. So the nice thing about receivers is always get something that has like pre-outs so you can expand it. If you get those little 7-point whatever dealies that are locked into 50 watts per channel and say, oh, you can dedicate the 7.1s, the backs to being Atmos, I'm like, you're screwed. You're going to upgrade that receiver.
Yeah. And if people do go to a processor, you don't necessarily need to have one that is all XLR, but if you have the option to go XLR, go XLR, because there is a dB increase from XLR to RCA. So that's something that people probably should consider as well.
And a lot of that can be brand specific. I had a guy that was pairing Macintosh, I think it was Macintosh amps, like monoblocks with, I want to say it was like a Marantz Pre-Pro. And something about their voltage between the Pre-Pro and the Macintosh wasn't matching up. And it seemed like he had to crank it to even get any sound out of it. So XLR is 100% is the way to go.
Yeah.
Probably just a voltage mismatch.
And if you, I just found this is a 9.2. So if you did want the 5.1.4, and it has audio out, so you can run amps with it. It's only $1,000. It's Pioneer.
Oh, nice. Now, is this running proper HDMI spec? Because I know Pioneer, Onkyo, Denon, they should all be under the same umbrella, right?
I believe so now. They are, yes.
Sound United, yeah. So with something like this, the way that I've always told people to do their systems is get the receiver based on the need for the features and expandability. I would start off with a nice pair of musical bookshelves, if that's within your budget, if not towers. But down the line, let's say you do start off with bookshelves and like a sub, you can put those bookshelves in the back of the room and then get either another pair of bookshelves that match or something that's in the exact same line for towers if you want more sound for music. I usually say center channel last. And most people that have done that system with 2 speakers or 4 speakers haven't really found the need for the center channel unless they've got a really wide room.
I would agree with that.
But if you're someone like Sammie, you want as much output as you can, and that's a dedicated channel. So he's like, give me my center channel.
Yeah, no, I would agree with center channel last for sure. But at the same time, I do agree that once you get to the point, you do need a center channel because, again, like if you have frequencies that are playing out of the center channel, that's a dedicated channel. That channel does not exist. It has to go to your left and your right. There's other sounds that should be playing out of the left and right at the same time. You have to give something up, right? So
possibly.
Yeah. So, okay. Say for instance you have a woman talking in a restaurant, and you're also in a restaurant that is having utensils hit plates and glasses. It's going to be trying to play all that at the same time. Nothing's going to play at its fully how it should, because it has to still reproduce the sound for the voice that needs to be like the main focus. So everything else is going to be kind of dialed back because it can only reproduce so much sound from that speaker, right? So a dedicated center channel, I do believe you need once you start doing home theater later on. The thing that sucks about center channels is placement. That's the part that really sucks, because my center channel is about this wide. And if I were to say put that upstairs, it would have to go on top of my entertainment center, because the little spot is not going to fit it. Like those little entertainment centers, you have a spot that's like this big, and you're limited to the center channel size you could put in there. So
Screwed.
yeah, you're kind of screwed. But if you have the space, get as large of a center channel as possible and send it as much power as you possibly can.
Sure. I've got my matching center channel just sitting there. I still have to put it back together because I cannibalized the woofers out of it. But
didn't you have extra woofers?
I do. I can still do it.
Okay.
So, and I still have an extra channel on the amp. The key is getting that TV off the entertainment center to get the center channel underneath it.
Right.
That's the fun part. So we'll see about it. It might be a fun project.
Yeah. And and that sucks too, because if someone has an entertainment center and for instance, they can't wall mount their television, what do you do? Like in your case, for yours, not your drawers, but your doors come down. So you would have to technically leave that open all the time to put a center channel in there.
I've got
unless you
better
mount it.
solution. Yeah. So I'm going to mount the TV with one of those Sanus table mounts. Have you seen those stands?
Yes.
The ones that actually let you tilt and move it.
Yeah.
So you can get that sucker plenty high to get a center channel in there. The issue is going to be the wife factor, whether or not she's going to be like, this is ugly. So that's where you got to wall mount the TV and float it out. I've done a lot of crazy setups and installs for clients where I will wall mount the TV, even if it's unnecessary, inside a media cabinet, just so we can get the center channel in place below the TV. So it's important.
It is. It is really important. But like you said, if you're going to do it, you can do it last. Like you don't need one right away.
True. And the other thing is, don't fall for those little tiny matching center channels, because especially with like TV and Pro Logic sound, 80% of the sound is going to come from that speaker. And if it doesn't sound good, like speaking of those RP8000s, I had a guy that had a tiny ass clips matching like one of those little slim center channels.
Ooh,
So first thing I did is set up, I unplugged it. And he was like, oh, that sounds way better. I'm like, yeah, you need a much bigger center channel to keep up with your fronts. So as big as your the minimum driver side on your fronts, you need at least two of those woofers.
Yeah.
To keep up.
My center is around 54 inches. Oh no, I'm sorry, 45 inches or so long. It weighs about 54 pounds, and it's almost the same size as my towers, almost. And it works perfectly. My one upstairs, because I have pretty much kind of the same setup upstairs, minus all the speakers, of course, but it's a small center, and I want to get rid of it, honestly, because it's too small. I almost want to replace it with the one I have down here. Just buy like new speakers for down here and replace everything upstairs.
I wonder, give me a second. I wonder if I have an old picture or something I'll show you. I actually ran 2 bookshelves in series as a center channel because they matched my my towers. So if I can find a picture of it, I'll laugh. So I'll see if I can find it. But if not, whatever.
All right, so I've been sitting here trying to piece together like the start of something fairly decent for the cost of an HT-A9 if someone was willing to build their own instead of just going with that. So I'm coming up with is there's also last year's Denons that are 9.2 because you really don't need HDMI 2.1. Like even the Sonys and stuff, you get the $50 splitter, you can have 2 devices going to port 4. So I would just kind of push HDMI 2.1 to the side because I mean personally I would always run the console or computer straight to the TV anyway. So 9.2 with audio out, so you can add an amp later. I've been looking at these as possible replacements for what I have.
Those look great.
And
How
there's
does
a
it sound?
center for it. The reviews are good.
Okay.
And then the sub that I have, it's like all of this is just barely a little bit above the cost of the HT-A9. You get your whole front stage and the receiver, and then you just add your surrounds and ceiling speakers, whatever, afterwards.
Found the picture. Please don't laugh at this. It's going to be really old and really bad, but I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it for the memes.
Okay. Griffin, thank you for the super chat. What option does he have if he wants to keep older Yamaha RX 3060 and get eARC? Currently have A80J, Apple TV, PS5, gaming PC. So you can get the Shark for your audio, and then get the HDMI switch, the HDMI 2.1 switch. It's like $50, and then you should be able to connect everything up.
I have a video review on the Shark on my channel. So if you search Shark review, my channel's probably going to pop up. There's only like 2 reviews of that sucker on the internet that I found.
Yeah, it's a Fen Audio Shark, SHARC.
I need to start doing reviews on the actual. Is that flashing on stream?
Yeah, that's flickering.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So back when I played a shit ton of Rock Band, we're talking years back. Like I used to play the crap out of this.
Does your character have a pompadour?
Well, I used to have like, look at this, years back. That center channel on the stand, that's 2 of the same matching bookshelves that I ran in series, because I wanted them to try and be able to keep up with the freaking towers in my setup. So that's a 65-inch Mitsubishi DLP. That's the same power amp that I have now, and this was back in the Xbox 360 Wii days. So this was my old bedroom setup back in college, man. Just kind of laughing at like how nerdy I was. But that's the type of system that you need to play Rock Band 2 properly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think I only had the one SVS sub. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of hiding here in the back next to all the movies. It's that cylinder sub, so kind of hard to see. But yeah, that was my life back then.
All right. Darius is asking, how's the price scale for real audio? He has Sony HTZ-9F soundbar sub and rears for $600. How much would a real AVR center be for 5.1 and better? I mean, I think what I just showed is probably an option for a step up from that, and then you just add sides or heights to it. So it's about, I don't know, if you really want to go high end, probably think like $3,000 to get started, and then upgrade from there.
There's no cap, man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, oh, I was going to say this earlier because I think this is really, really important. When you actually have something beyond the soundbar, like what I used to do for the couples, having an actual dedicated receiver and bookshelves or tower speakers, you can then listen to music and not just hear music in the background, but actually sit down and listen to music and have it sound really good and become emotionally invested in music. And what you'll find is that even with something as simple as Spotify or Apple TV or all this stuff and listen to Apple Music, that becomes a whole new thing for you and your wife or what have you. Like you start enjoying that as a leisure activity. So when I recommend systems like this, it's not just so you can play Halo Infinite and have it sound loud. It's so that you can actually hear vocals and music in the game and everything sounds so much better and richer. That's why I stray people away from the soundbars and build them into these $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $75,000 systems, is because it hits at that emotional level. And you cannot get that with a soundbar. I've never heard a soundbar that is musical to a point where the speakers are separated properly and you have that same dialogue or vocals come through properly. And that's the only reason I stay away from soundbars. If you don't care about music, go get a soundbar. But if you actually think you might, that's where I say start looking at separates.
Can I share this? Hold on.
Yeah, you just
Hit your.
click the screen you want.
Oops, hold on. Video file. No.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about earlier, is that might possibly in the future think about building some enclosures, getting some different drivers for them, seeing how it turns out, make some videos on it. My woodworking skills aren't the greatest, so they probably won't be pretty. But if I do it enough, maybe I'll get better at it.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see this. Okay, so just for people that are asking for what my theater or my setup looks like. So this is what you see when you come down the stairs. You got the little sign here. Get into the room. You have some custom plaques. These are aluminum. So just basically the different technologies. It's my gaming PC with the i9 3090 Ti Kingpin, like 64 gigs of RAM and stuff like that. Ultra wide. Cruella poster. A glow box with a Wonder Woman poster. I can switch them out though whenever I want. Gaming PC again. These speakers up here are in the back are Paradigm Prestige 25S. Their projector is a JVC RS3000 with the DCR lens. Yeah, there it is. Hooked up to an AV Pro Edge Ballon. This is the front. The reason it's kind of blue is because the lights are on underneath the chair. This is before I start changing the ceiling. The screen is a Stewart Luxus Studio Tech 130 G4 screen. It's a 235-1, so it's a 1.3 gain. Paradigm Prestige speakers, center, 2 SP16 Ultras. SVS Prime Elevation for the heights. The rack was a Kaleidoscape Strato, Lumigen, Xbox, PlayStation, Arachnus, Oppo, Lingdorf, audio control, Valencia theater seating, which I hate. I wish I hadn't got them, but it's too late now. More movie posters. This is with the grills off. More movie posters.
That looks exactly like my Rock Band setup, man. There's no difference.
Yeah, there's absolutely no difference at all. So yeah, that's pretty much my setup. I'm going to change some stuff at some point. I did order a star ceiling that I have to put in. It's going to be fiber optic. That's going to help the reflection on the light, and then paint the rest of the room black for the ceiling. But yeah, that's my setup. And then I have like another small setup upstairs, but that's pretty much my wife's setup, honestly, at this point.
Yeah. And you have a OLED in almost every room, right?
Yes, I actually have a one that I have to move up to the office soon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't even opened it, have you?
No, it's literally sitting in the garage right now. I just haven't. Oh yeah, I don't have a channel, unfortunately. I'm gonna make one that's gonna focus on a lot of the same stuff that these guys do, but audio calibration, video calibration, some tutorials depending on what it is. So I'm gonna focus on things like Lumigen, for instance, because if you try to search for Lumigen, you'll have people talking about it, but you don't ever find anyone showing how to actually set them up or calibrate them. So I'm going to be focusing on stuff like that. So I don't have a channel yet, but I will fairly soon.
And are you allowed to say about your upcoming review?
Oh yeah, so I also write for Projector Central as well. So I should have a review coming out in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. On just a projector that's coming, or it's actually already out. It's an order projector, but it just needs to be reviewed. So I'll be doing that as well.
As soon as your channel's up, I'll make sure that it's linked through recommended channels, so that way people can see it and just click on it and and check it
Okay,
out.
cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do that for like Classy and
Hmm.
certain channels that I like.
The projector is the Epson 2250 that I'll be. Well, the one I'm reviewing is the Epson 2250. The one that I own is a RS3000.
Did you order the new one?
No, not yet. Mainly because I haven't decided if I want the 4100 because I don't want to lose out on the 100mm lens. But I'm waiting to see what stock's looking like because supposedly they're going to have enough to fill a lot of the orders from October and November, but then after that there might be a slight delay. With that being the case, I'm thinking that the price may be able to come down some, dealer costs. So I'm just kind of waiting to see. And at the same time, I'm kind of fine with what I have because I still use a Lumigen. So I'm not going to get any of the benefit of the 2.1. So for me, it's kind of like, do I want it? Yes, I do. Do I need it? Not necessarily. So I'm going to probably wait a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, so anyone that's here too, something that I'm going to be looking into probably after the new year just because of being busy. But Mad VR, which is typically for projectors, mostly because of its tone mapping abilities. But it's also pretty much the best way to upscale is through Mad VR with a high-end video card. So I'm going to be looking into Mad VR on an OLED, comparing against the XR processing with the reality creation, comparing to, I mean, that's kind of the best that there is right now for upscaling as far as TV goes. So I don't know if there's a reason to compare it to the LG upscaling, but I would compare it to the Shield. Other just like playing shows from your PC through like MPC or whatever. And they're just really showing how much better things can be with Mad VR. And I will look at the tone mapping differences as well and see maybe there is an advantage to use it on a OLED. Who knows? So, but that's something that's more stuff up Sammie's alley too, is Mad VR.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would see a lot of benefit from it on a Sony OLED for sure, because if you put a LUT in front of anything, it's going to be better, right? It's just going to be better in general. And being able to use Mad VR to do a 3D LUT for all your SDR is going to be huge. And I mean, you'll probably see a pretty good benefit from it.
I think Stacy Spears mentioned that in his kitchen he has like a 32-inch Panasonic LCD, and it actually has a 3D LUT, the box that he put with it. So yeah, like 100%. Anything you do with the Sony with the 3D LUT's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, I only wish the Envy wasn't so expensive. Like it's prohibitively expensive. Like.
But you have a 3090, so have you tried it just on your PC?
No, I haven't. Actually, I haven't. I downloaded a lot of stuff on my laptop, but not Mad VR. So I probably should one day. It's just that it doesn't come up a lot. Like it's not something that most of the people that use Mad VR are pretty do-it-yourselfers. So it never comes up a lot where I've actually felt like I needed to get super familiar with it. And even with the case of an Envy, I don't think I need to get super familiar with it, because why is someone going to buy an Envy for 15 grand when they can get a Lumigen for like 4? So.
Yeah. I just want to try it from the PC side, not have to buy an Envy.
Yeah, no, if it works, let me know, because then I'll probably try to do it too. Because the Lumigen, the only reason I have a Lumigen is for the dynamic tone mapping and the aspect ratio control, which if the dynamic tone mapping on the Mad VR is really, really good, I'll just switch to using anamorphic modes on the projector and just screw the aspect ratio control. So I think it does that as well.
That's pretty awesome.
All right. Well, if you guys got anything else to add in before we call it next couple minutes?
I would say if you're looking for audio, I'm not saying don't go to Best Buy, right? Best Buy is not bad, right? And we don't want them to go away. People need to shop at Best Buy. But there's more than what's available than what Best Buy sells, right? So like, don't always look at Klipsch, Polk, Definitive Technology, Bowers, Kef. There's a ton of other brands that you can get for sometimes better prices, better performance by going to a specialty shop that's a boutique. And for the most part, if you go to Best Buy, there's a good chance you're paying retail. Don't pay retail. Like, you can go to a specialty shop, and even if they don't have something listed, you can ask them if they can get it. And chances are that they can, and you're going to get a better price. And you have a chance to actually listen to it on a good system to see what they're actually capable of. I'm not saying your system is going to be the same, but you can at least get an idea, like, this is what the speaker can do. And if you want to aspire to do that, you can. I would say start going to boutique shops. Look at that. That's honestly your best bet if you want to start getting like really into audio.
Very true. I guess I need to go hear Brandon's HT-A9 in that big ass room.
Yeah.
And I need to have him come over. He hasn't heard this setup yet, so I don't know if he's actually heard like a full-on home theater or even a musical setup.
Yeah, your setup's good. Your setup's actually
okay.
really good. No, it's good. Like,
It's
when you're
better.
playing, when you're playing some of the stuff for me, like when we're listening to like Dunkirk, your system's good.
Yeah. I think my next step is adding an additional external amplifier, and I think I want to upgrade my subs. But we'll see. Anyways, advice for people that are shopping soundbars. The only thing I can say is that whatever you spend on your TV, be prepared to spend the same amount on your audio. If not, just save up. Match your audio to your TV buying habits. So if you buy a $4,000 TV, I'm telling you, be prepared to spend $4,000 on audio. Otherwise, your priorities are just off, in my opinion. If you want to get a Bose 700 soundbar to go with your 83-inch OLED, go right ahead. But you can do much better by balancing the budget between the two of them.
Yeah.
So that's
whatever
the
your
only
budget
thing
is, put most of it towards the sub.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Subwoofer's huge, especially if you have a big room.
I think for most people, the hold up, at least most people who are looking at soundbars or the HT-A9, is just the look, minimalism, things like that, and they just don't want to go through the buying an AVR, buying the speakers, and I think if you can get over that or get some advice from any of us about what to be looking at, maybe or pay someone to help you out with it or something.
That's what I used to do.
It's a much different experience.
Yeah. And really, an HT-A9 without stands, you're still plugging the suckers in. You're still connecting a box to the TV.
Yep.
You've got 4 outlets around the room that you got to set up. There's still cables.
Yeah.
You just don't have cables front to back. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And if you don't want to twist the wires, just get some banana plugs.
Yep. And if people are looking at soundbars and they just want another brand to look at, obviously it's not a Sony or it's not a Samsung or an LG or a Sonos or whatever, but check out Nakamichi.
Yep.
The Nakamichi Shockwave.
Yep.
Those are decent. Those are decent subs, or not subs, but soundbars. And also another thing people could look at is passive soundbars. So like Golden Ear, they make essentially a bar. And I think Dayton, when you went up to the Dayton site, they had them too, where it's essentially left, center, right. You would have to hook it up to something that's going to power it. So like a small receiver or something, but that's going to give you really good audio as well, with essentially the same footprint, maybe a little smaller than the new soundbar. Just plug in the AVR, you have a ton of inputs, and then you have your front soundstage.
Yeah, I used to do Sonan's passive soundbars that you could actually adjust to the width of these huge TVs. Like, they make an 85-inch version, like big ass soundbars, and you pair that with a wireless kit and an SVS sub. Done. Like that's gonna be the best sounding soundbar you've ever heard.
Yep.
So still need a receiver, but works great.
All right, yeah. So my next upgrade is to move to a different house where I have room to add more. So,
Mine too.
Well, your guys' class is coming up soon, right?
yep. 3 weeks?
I still haven't done my homework.
2
Have
weeks?
you?
No, I'm going to this weekend.
Yeah, me too. I might tackle it tomorrow. We'll see. I've got some jobs lined up, so I gotta prepare myself to be driving for hours and hours.
Yeah. And I'm not sure when we start that course online how long it is, or if you can leave it and come back to it or not. So
yeah, we'll have to ask Sammie offline about that kind of stuff too.
Mine wasn't like that. Mine wasn't online. Mine was in person when I took it years ago. Yeah, then I just had to fill out the sheet and send it in to Jason. So
okay. As for, I mean, I'm going to try and get a video up over the weekend. I wanted to kind of show off some differences in like video calibration, like copying settings or grabbing $5 settings from YouTube and put them on your TV versus like, because a lot of people now are saying, oh, the TVs are really good out of the box, or you can just use these $5 settings and they'll work. And I've been playing with these 83-inch OLEDs that are terrible out of the box. And I've got the receipts to prove it. So I've got 2 TVs at the house. I think I'm going to start doing more side-by-side stuff. So probably up by Sunday. Yep. It's huge.
all right. Yep. Yeah, I gotta open the TCL 6 series, the R646. Start working on that. And a new camera comes tomorrow. Hopefully this one works out.
Oh, jeez.
I'm now $6,000 into a camera system, but it better work.
Oh, my gosh. That's a lot. Just think of the home theater you could have put together for the 6,000.
Yeah.
Or don't.
And I think for this room, I've pretty much hit the limits until we move.
That'll be good.
yeah, I'm gonna be playing with the A90J as soon as we finish. We can see how that looks.
That's cool.
Cool, guys.
All right.
That last comment about with soundbars falling apart, DefTech is known for having sub failure on their soundbar systems. So if there's one brand I'd say avoid when it comes to soundbars, it's going to be Definitive Technology. I've just seen way too many of them fail. So I agree. So if you have one part go out, especially the sub, you're not going to be happy.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining, and thank everyone for watching. KG will have a stream tomorrow, and then Saturday, Pass the Remote. I'll be on there talking about the Sony gaming VRR update and the tragedy that it is. And then we'll have KG's 10K appreciation stream after that.
Oh, everybody that has HBO Max, Dune is now available. It was actually available 3 hours ago, but I didn't tell anybody because I don't want them to hop up stream. But go watch Dune.
Yeah, about to be doing that as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun, and I'm
dude.
sure I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll have you on when you get your channel going, or whenever you want to come on.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.